if your personality shows in the content that you're creating each and every day, people are going to be more receptive to the content that you are creating because they are now reacting to who you are rather than just what you're saying. Why we break consistency, right, is because when we're making plans, we make it for an ideal situation where you're basically getting like 24 hours in your day completely dedicated to content creation. But when you actually come down to executing, basically life comes in the middle. I think AI is a great tool for content creators because it takes away so much of the time consuming parts of content creation.
The influencer marketing industry is valued at 16.4 billion, and the number is even more when we consider smaller thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and creators. But you'd be surprised to know that 46.7 million of those creators consider themselves amateurs. What is the reason behind this, and what can be done to close this gap? I'm Anushka, and in this episode, we'll talk about how to come up with creative ideas, and we have with us Pranita. Welcome to the show, Pranita.
Thank you so much.
So the very first question, I mean, why is content strategy important in the first place? I mean, I think we all know that, we keep creating content mindlessly. We create our calendars and everything, but why to even consider content creation in the first place?
So if you talk about content creation, like specifically for me, right, I think my entire objective was to put whatever ideas I have forward. So as a content creator, you get 100% freedom on what you want to do. The only thing that's very important for you to do is just place everything together like a puzzle. So that becomes your strategy. If you're doing it without that, what basically happens is you're just hitting shots in the dark. You don't know why something is working, you don't know why something is not working. So a strategy just makes that airtight, and you're able to learn more through your content creation journey altogether.
That's great. I think for anybody who's considering going on this journey of creating content for whatever objective they have when it comes to their business or their personal brand, what are the elements you would recommend that they consider or they sit down and think through when it comes to content strategy or content creation?
So I think the first and the biggest element is who your target audience is. So who are you talking to? Knowing that is very important because you have to keep circling back to that and see whether your content still matches to the audience that you had in mind. What is your niche? So a lot of people, what is happening now in the industry is that I have five interests. Can I put one account and have five interests showcased on that? So that dilutes your niche because then you don't know who your target audience is. Or if a brand wants to come to you, they don't know what to come to you for because you're talking about 100 things. You're also talking about skating, but you're also talking about parenting, and then you're also talking about yoga, and then nutrition and everything. So these are the two most important elements, and then you have to keep your content like super super authentic. I think if your personality shows in the content that you're creating each and every day, people are going to be more receptive to the content that you are creating because they are now reacting to who you are rather than just what you're saying.
As a general rule of thumb, obviously every platform and every objective has its own tone and its own strategy. But just generally speaking, what would you recommend? All these major platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. So these are the four I can come up with. What would you recommend the tone be when somebody is posting on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook? How would you recommend that these things be taken into consideration when it comes to content strategy, and how can that be put forward?
So if I have to just give you an analogy for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn is basically your personality in your office, around your colleagues, around your boss, around your clients.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Twitter, it's your personality around your friends. And Instagram is in the middle of that. Instagram is basically you're meeting your work friends.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to be professional at some points, like there are boundaries that you don't want to cross.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can also be very casual with them because they're friends of yours.
And how relevant would you say Facebook is nowadays? Because I personally don't use it at all, but then some businesses are still active.
I think as a young person, if you're using Facebook, you still have to have a lot of boundaries. So that's
Mm-hmm.
probably the personality that you have in front of your parents.
Great, great. Um, a very major part when it comes to content strategy is consistency.
Hmm.
So this is personally what I still struggle with it, to be very honest, because initially I created a full calendar that, I'll post 3 times a week on LinkedIn. That came down to 2 times a week, then it came down to once a week, and now I haven't posted, I think, in a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
So consistency is what I personally struggle with, but I've also heard a lot of people struggle with that. Um, so, what would your recommendation be when it comes to now that you have a content strategy ready, now that you have to execute it, what would your advice or recommendation be when it comes to that?
So what happens, why we break consistency, right, is because when
Mm-hmm.
we're making plans, we make it for an ideal situation where you're basically getting like 24 hours in your day
Mm-hmm.
completely dedicated to content creation. You have a flowing stream of ideas all the time. So that's the planning Pranita. Like when Pranita plans,
Mm-hmm.
that's how she plans, right? But when you actually come down to executing, basically life comes in the middle. You were thinking that you're going to shoot today, but then there's a function
Mm-hmm.
going on outside your house, so you can't shoot
Yeah.
today. You were going to write a
Mm-hmm.
script today, but you feel like you're not having enough ideas, or you just don't know how to start, right? So these are the
Mm-hmm.
hurdles that come in the middle. So what I do is, one is I batch create. So I try to create like approximately 3 to 4 pieces at one time, so that even
Mm-hmm.
if I have a time when I know that, okay, at this time I'm not going to be able to create at all, I have something in the bank. Even if I'm posting like alternate days, I still have something so that my account doesn't go dead for like 15 days, right? I break down the batch creation process. So, for example, like
Mm-hmm.
through the week, I'm just going to be like, okay, this reel sounds interesting, or this idea seems interesting. Let me just save it. So I will keep
Mm-hmm.
saving those ideas. When I sit down to write something, what I will do is I will script on day one, and then I will bounce. I will not do anything else on day one.
Mm-hmm.
Day two, I will redo the scripts, like edit the scripts, and then try to shoot as well.
Mm-hmm.
Day three, I'm going to just shoot, like edit the shots that I have taken and just cut them down into different snippets. So like what
Mm-hmm.
I've shot is like a 4 minute video, what I will have now will be like a 30-second video, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then day four, I do captioning and all the extra edits that the video needs and everything else. So the
Mm-hmm.
process just becomes simpler for me, because next time when I do sit to write, I don't remember all of it coming on my head at the same time. I just remember that one day that was super breezy. I just took like 2 hours of my
Mm-hmm.
time to write down the scripts, and so it my mind just makes it easier for me. Where I'm like, it's not that difficult. It's okay. You can do it. So just
Mm-hmm.
it's basically going to be just fooling yourself and manipulating yourself to be able to create content, because you're your own boss here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very difficult
Yeah.
thing to do in general.
Another, I think, when you mention difficult when it comes to content creation, I personally have not faced it because, as I mentioned, I couldn't stay consistent. But people who have been able to stay consistent and, they've achieved becoming part of such programs, I think on LinkedIn there's a creator program as well.
Yeah.
For people who are a part of such programs or in general who keep themselves motivated to consistently create content, sometimes for some people there comes a point where they feel pressured to continue to do the same thing,
Yeah.
and I think it's more YouTubers have talked about that than general content creators. So, if you have any experience, if you've experienced something yourself, or if you've seen somebody else going through the same thing, what would your take be on that? I mean, feeling pressured to consistently create more content instead of just taking a break and taking a deep breath and
Hmm.
going forward. How would you tackle that?
So what I when I every content creator who is trying to consistently create and has built an audience goes through this, right? So after a point when I was, say, at 500 followers, I was like, okay, if I reach 10,000 followers, I'm going to do like whatever they want me to do. When I was there, I would be like, okay, if I reach 25,000, I'm literally going to like blow myself up with excitement. But what happens is that the thing that you were aiming to do keeps becoming smaller in your head. And especially when you achieve it, it becomes even more smaller, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So what I generally do when I feel like, okay, this is too much for me. Uh, so to begin with that, like how I would figure out whether it's becoming too much for me is just keep touching base with yourself and see whether it's something that you're still enjoying or this is just something you're doing because you have to do it, right? Once you figure that this is becoming too much, I try to repost my own content because I'm like, there are there are new people getting added to the account every day and they don't know what that piece of content looks like. So I can very well repurpose it. So I do that. Then what I will do is because I have so many shots of myself just shooting content, right? Sometimes I will figure the easy way out where if I have something to say, I will record a voiceover, I will stitch all the clips together and not have like a full-fledged video that I would usually do. Um, yeah, those are some things that I do to just, give myself that break, but not break my consistency.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think that's great advice because something that people generally are very fearful of is to break
Yeah.
that consistency, and that, it becomes a vicious cycle for them. That if I break it, then it becomes a problem, then I can't really break it. And then they end up just becoming uh, dragged into
Yeah.
that cycle. So I think that's a very insightful piece of advice for people out there who can do, they can follow it. Now, a very interesting question. I think most of all, I was very curious to know it because I've been practicing it myself. How do you think AI comes into the picture when we talk about content creation and content strategy? Some people feel that, it's going to take over and it's going to eat jobs, but some people feel that it's not going to be that way. It's actually going to help you more. So, I mean, being a content creator, how have you been, leveraging AI if you are leveraging it, and how do you think people can, use it in the future once it becomes even more advanced?
I think AI is a great tool for content creators because it takes away so much
Mm-hmm.
of the time consuming parts of content creation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, if I were
Mm-hmm.
to do like all my subtitles on Instagram or do it on like a platform like, say, Premiere Pro, I would take hours to do
Mm-hmm.
this, right? Whereas with AI now, it auto subtitles all my videos. So it just becomes easier for me to
Mm-hmm.
do that. I think in terms of when it comes to taking jobs, right? AI will take jobs of people who are not giving 100% to their jobs and who are just doing the bare minimum that's required of them. So if I have to think about, say, let's assume a video editor, right, in my field. So the video editor that I am, so for example, because I edit my own videos, right? Now, AI will not be able to replace that for myself because of the liberty that my edit gives my shooting. I'm able to do a lot more experimentation with shooting because I know that, okay, the editing Pranita will handle this for me, or the editors in my company, I know that what they bring to the table is so unique that no piece of technology will ever be able to duplicate that. But then when I see like a lot of people on Instagram who are just trying to do the bare minimum, not upskilling, not trying to see what the industry standards are, those are jobs that are bound to go away, when it comes to AI. Even if I have to speak about like a very small cog in the entire machine, if I have to talk about voiceovers, right? AI now has very, very realistic voiceovers. We were doing a project very recently, and we have voiceover artists who have been working with our company for a lot of time. We spoke to them and we were like, hey, we want to try AI. Is it okay if we do that? Like, we just want to give it a shot. They were like, go ahead, absolutely. In the process, Anushka, we realized that what they brought to the table was so much more than just the output that they were giving us. It was basically inputs in the script as well, where they were like, okay, can I say this exact line very dramatically, and in the next line I can break it off and just be very monotone. So those are not things that you can get to know from AI, or like AI can help you with. So I think people who experiment a lot, want to learn more and more every day, AI is not going to be able to touch them. It will just make their jobs much more, much easier.
So I completely agree, and I've been using so ChatGPT is the gold standard AI abhi for copywriters. But I think more and more I think transcriptions are coming as well. So AI transcriptions are coming as well, and that's something that's going to help me when it comes to transcripting episodes and editing it that way. So I think it was a great episode. I genuinely believe that people will take up a lot of insights from this. And thank you so much for coming and doing this episode with us, Pranita.
Thank
Hope
you so
we get you on another episode soon. And thank you once more.
Thank you so much for having me. I would absolutely love to do this again.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Top Connect. If you have any questions related to the topic, do check out the links in the description below. As promised, here's your chance to win a one-on-one call with Pranita. All you need to do is talk about the 3 key insights that you've learned from this episode and post it on your social media. Don't forget to tag Pranita and TopMate. Also, if you're listening to this on Spotify, do write down the topic you'd want us to cover next. I'm Anushka and you're listening to Top Connect, an educational podcast by TopMate, hosted and produced by me.